Welcome to Trifecta Collective, Finding the Root, where we dive deep into understanding and addressing root causes of chronic health issues so you can help and find healing inside and out, now and forever. Hello, and welcome to Trifecta Collective, Finding the Root. I'm Megan Abbott, owner and founder of the holistic health practice Trifecta Collective. Welcome to the podcast. So, it is prime sick season right now. And as we work with clients, we do get a lot of questions, concerns about illness. And what I mean by illness is I'm talking acute illness, a cold, the flu, a virus going around. And we can say any of them that can and kind of cycle around here. And we get a lot of people get really nervous that they get sick or how often they get sick, or they are so excited that they never get sick. And so I wanted to talk through some of this and talk about what is normal, what is not normal, some different reasons why and how we may get sick, what this can often look and feel like, and then various ways that we can support our body. And also, I do think this is also a good episode coming off of the health anxiety one, because once again, I do often find that people who do have a high level of health anxiety can often be the ones that get more nervous or concerned about acute illnesses. So, first, let's say you get sick 1 to 3 times a year, especially changes of seasons, maybe after travel, different things like that. This is totally, totally normal. We get sick, and it's okay because our bodies have natural ways to fight things off. And we may have been burning ourselves from both ends. We may have been under a lot of stress recently. Maybe we haven't been sleeping super well. Once again, travel, different exposure, or a new exposure to different people, different germs. This can all trigger illness. But I think it's once again really important to understand that getting sick is normal. It is a normal and natural part of life. And our body is designed to fight, handle, and recover from acute illness. Also, just to know, because once again, we do often get this question too of, should I go to an urgent care? Should I go to the emergency room? Should I, go see my doctor? Is it bad to take a medication? Is it not bad to take a medication? And we talked a little bit about this a while ago when we talked about antibiotics and different recommendations when it comes to the antibiotic world. And here's the advice, or here's the recommendation I usually give to most people. Once again, our bodies are designed to handle illness and recover appropriately. So if you get sick a few times a year and you recover within a few days, a week, kind of depending on what it is, if you get like a really bad flu or something, yeah, maybe it takes you like a week and a half to recover from it. Totally normal, totally natural. If your symptoms are bad enough, of course, go to an urgent care, to the emergency room, go see your doctor. Of course. If you need antibiotics, take them. Now, would I take them every time you get sick? No. And we should also probably be checking to see if it's a bacterial issue versus a virus, because antibiotics do not work for viruses. And so it's a totally different ballgame. So if we're dealing with a virus, different, little bit of a different story. Antibiotics aren't going to do much. And there may be things that are supportive to help manage symptoms. I'm going to give you an example. So I used to get really intense sinus infections 2 to 3 times a year for a very long time as an adult. And usually one of those times I would end up in an urgent care. And it was really because the pressure would be so intense and so bad that I mean, it would be very, very painful for many days, and or my sinus infection would last a week and a half, 2 weeks. I remember one time it was going on 3 weeks, and I said, "Okay, I'm gonna go to urgent care because it's been 3 weeks since I have, like, felt normal, and I've had this." And by the way, this is before I got into anything around the holistic health space. And I would usually get some steroids just to help with the pressure, help relieve some of the inflammation, so I could sleep a little bit better, so I could recover and be a little bit more comfortable within that. So I think that's important to acknowledge and understand because this is really what Western medicine was designed for: acute care and emergent care. And sometimes those can overlap, of course. And so if you're acutely sick, meaning you've got a head cold, you've got a sinus infection, you've got the flu, you've got some sort of virus. Once again, our body's designed to handle this. Now, I'm going to put a little asterisk around this as well. For many people, if you consistently get the same sicknesses multiple times throughout the year, it may be related to biofilms. I will tell you, it's not very common anymore that I get really bad sinus infections. Since I've done all of my healing work and all that kind of stuff, all the work on the gut that I've done, that is not something I largely experience. Now, that doesn't mean I don't get head colds, or I'll get like a minor sinus infection, or I'll get some sort of sickness because, yes, I do. I was just sick last week. I had some sort of stomach bug. I couldn't keep food down for a whole day. I actually took 2 days off of work. I had to clear my schedule for 2 whole days, which hasn't happened in 9 years. I did do the math. I was like, when was the last time I took 2 sick days in a row? I was working in a gym, and I was so sick that entire time that I was working in this gym. And I had what felt like the plague. And I finally, after about a week, I was like, I cannot handle this. I took 2 or 3 days off and went and got some steroids and went and got some stuff to help me from urgent care because I just like could not deal anymore. But it's been a while. It's been a long time since that happened. Yeah, of course. I'll get a little bit of a sore throat. Sometimes that'll move up into some congestion, more of like a head cold kind of thing. Not as much of a sinus infection like I used to feel. It feels different for me, more like head based versus just all in the sinuses. And it usually doesn't last a terribly long time. Oftentimes it is related to changing of the seasons. If I'm changing environments, have like a stark change in environment, that could trigger it. If of course I'm not around too many people, but if I'm around a lot of people who are sick, certainly that can happen. If I go through what will most often happen is I will not sleep well for a handful of days, usually close to a week, week and a half. At that point, I'm probably gonna get sick just because I'm more run down more than anything else. And I'll tell you, if we look more, obviously the physical body gets sick, but I'll also tell you, and this is very true for myself, but this is also true. I see this all the time with clients, especially when we're doing larger healing work, especially from a more mental and emotional side of things, that sometimes getting sick, I'm gonna share a couple stories around this, can be your body processing emotions. So I do think, like for me personally, and once again, I use myself as an example, and I've got hundreds of case studies to back all of this up. But if I'm not sleeping well for a good period, a good chunk of time, and stress is really high, I'm likely going to get sick. And that is my body screaming at me to slow down, take it easy, get some sleep, drink some extra water, eat some extra nourishing foods. And when I don't listen, that is when I get sick. And but once again, the body's able to handle stress, the body's able to do this stuff, and the body is a breaking point. At some point, you've got to slow down a little bit. You've got to focus on some basic support for your body. Otherwise, it's going to start screaming at you and you are not going to be happy and you will be forced to slow down and you will have no choice for the matter. So that's one way that this can really show up. I'll tell you, for me, a lot of times, especially when I was doing several years ago, I was doing a lot of really big work around my throat chakra, around my people pleasing patterns, about speaking up for myself. And I will tell you, it was so regular. I mean, it'd be almost like once a month. My glands would start to get swollen, my throat would start to hurt, and I'd be like, man, am I getting sick again? Like, am I having an Epstein-Barr virus flare? Like, what is going on here? It would last 2 or 3 days and then go away every time. And it was always after this bigger, deeper work. And for me, once again, when this happened enough times, I started noticing these patterns. And I was like, oh, this is not a physical thing. This is an energetic, emotional thing where my body's having an acute inflammatory response from emotional and energetic work I'm doing around my throat and my throat chakra and speaking up for myself and using my voice and different things like that. And I see this all the time, especially with a lot of my one-on-one clients. Especially if someone gets sick pretty close together, I'm going to ask if I'm not actively aware of things that they're processing, and we haven't been having a lot of conversations about that, that is 100% going to be a big thing that comes up that I want to bring up with them and talk about in our next session, because that can play a really big role. And I'll say it can happen. I'd say the throat's really common. I'll also say if someone's a lot of time in their head and they're just kind of crown chakra and really like a lot of anxiety, that may translate into more of a head cold. From a like sinus and nasal standpoint, one of our other practitioners, Brendan, and I have had a couple conversations about this. And I remember one time she was like, is there something that you're dealing with that is sitting poorly with you? Like, does it actively like almost smell bad and have this like bad smell or bad kind of energy or vibe to it? And you're trying to drain that out and to push it out. And that's a lot of like sinus nasal stuff. Sure. Yeah. I think it's worthwhile to look at, if someone is constantly getting, gut issues. Okay. Well, what could be the energetic? Of course, there's probably a physical component. And is there an energetic component? Is there an emotional component to this that is worthwhile to look into? And I think for some people, yes. And I think for many other people, no. And I always like to bring it up because I know a lot of people will understand and kind of resonate with that. And when the next time they get sick, what have I been processing? Have I been processing a lot around a specific type of trauma, around a specific theme or topic? And has there been a lot that's just there's moving and processing and shifting and changing and all these other things? That is this coming up as physical symptoms, but it's rooted in more of an emotional, energetic kind of component. So that can absolutely happen. But I think more often than not, a lot of these illnesses we're not taking the best care of ourselves and we're really run down, and that's going to catch up with you. And so if you don't listen, because I can really guarantee, really like 100% guarantee, you had some symptoms leading up to it and you chose to ignore them. By the way, I do this too. So like you are not alone. I do my best and I'm not perfect by any means. I'm still human. I still have things to get done and work things and personal things and shove things down sometimes until I'm in a better place where I can process it. Is that the healthiest? No. And, I do my best and it's not perfect and that's okay. So sometimes we just run ourselves into the ground and we need some time and space to chill and sleep and relax and once again, hydrate, all these other things to help ourselves feel better. So that's a little bit about illness itself. And I'll also say, if you are getting sick all the time, I mean, we get clients who get sick. Women, if you find yourself getting sick really regularly, track when it is with your cycle because hormones can play a role in this, especially if it's the week before your cycle every single time. I can almost guarantee hormones are playing a role in this, and your body is not coping with something hormonally, likely progesterone related. However, it could be estrogen and or it could be all three, estrogen, progesterone, and or testosterone, and we want to take a look at that. But if you're getting sick all the time, I mean, if you're getting sick more than, let's say, 3 times a year consistently, and or it takes you forever to recover. I'm talking a head cold is taking you 2 or 3 weeks. Like a basic little viral thing that most people get over in 2 or 3 days. It's taking you a week, week and a half, 2 weeks to get over consistently. These are red flags where we do want to dive a little bit deeper in understanding, okay, what is playing a role here? What else could be going on? Why is someone getting sick so often? And we want to take a deeper look at that. And I know a lot of people will jump to, oh, well, it could just be your vitamin D levels. Please go back, if this is you, please go back and listen to our blood test part 2 episode where we dive a little bit deeper into vitamin D. The range that we use for vitamin D is 25 to 55. We also do like to run 2 vitamin D markers versus 1, which many functional medicine practitioners only will run 1. Some will run both, and then Western medicine, good luck getting both run. But both have a lot of value. And the reason why Western medicine isn't going to run both is because they should be the same number. So Western medicine goes, well, okay, well, what's the point? Why would we run both? Well, when you dive deeper into the physiology of how this actually works, that can actually show us a lot and give us a lot of information as to why you might be getting sick all the time, and you may actually not be vitamin D deficient. I'll tell you, most chronically ill clients that we work with are not actually vitamin D deficient. Yeah, every once in a while for sure. Most are not. When we run both markers, vitamin D, the standard one that's run, it will be low. The other one will be high. And it's because your body's getting enough. It's converting it into this other form, but it's not actually being absorbed. And we need to figure out the reason why it's not actually being absorbed versus just over supplementing with vitamin D, in which case we can actually suppress the immune system, hide underlying issues going on within the immune system, and it can cause a lot of other nutrient deficiencies. It puts a lot of pressure on your kidneys, which obviously is never great, especially if you have a history of kidney issues. We never want to do that. So really worthwhile to take a look at multiple of these things. But a big kind of test that we will often run, we love to see all the basics, but the big one that we're going to probably put a little bit more emphasis on is the CBC with differential. A complete blood count, or CBC, with the differential, and I want to talk a little bit more about this panel, shows us some insight into your immune system. It does many things, and the immune system is a piece of this. If you are acutely sick with some sort of bacterial infection, what will typically show is your white blood cell count will likely be elevated. For some people, if they are really fighting something, their immune system may be lowered. So we might see that white blood cell count low. And the range that we typically like, our preferred range is 4 to 6. Someone's at between 3.5 to 4, we're going to take that into consideration, and we want some more information. But say 4 to 6 is the most optimal that we really like to see. And then within that, the differential part of that CBC, you're going to see 5 markers: neutrophils, lymphocytes, monocytes, eosinophils, and basophils. With a acute bacterial infection, we should see that neutrophil marker elevated. That will be the most likely indication. And for reference, what I mean by high, our range for that is 50 to 60%, or anywhere under 3.25. If it's super low, different things going on, and that baseline number can vary just a little bit, which is why I'm not going to give that number. But if you're over 3.25, probably some bacterial stuff. And if it's not a consistent pattern, probably some bacterial stuff going on. Now, if it is chronically elevated, this is where we get more information into the gut and gut health. And there is likely a bacterial, yeast, and/or fungal issue going on within the gut that is disrupting the immune system, disrupting the gut, disrupting the body. If it is viral in nature, we should see that lymphocyte marker elevated. And the percentage that we use is 30 to 37%. As kind of our most optimal range. And then within that, we want to see it under 2.1 for the absolute value. And if someone has a viral infection, we should see that elevated. Now, once again, when this is chronically elevated, it's usually indicative of some sort of chronic viral issue. Big things that we think about, excuse me, are Epstein-Barr virus and cytomegalovirus. Sometimes in certain cases, Lyme will also show here sometimes. So we do want to take all of that into account, but I'd say most commonly chronic viral issues. Monocytes by itself is looking at more generalized the immune system. So if we see, let's say, elevated white blood cell count, elevated neutrophils, elevated monocytes, and then everything else looks pretty darn good, we probably have your body is actively fighting an acute bacterial issue. Once again, we're assuming this is acute if you are actively sick and fighting something, and we're running labs at this point in time. So, but when we see this chronically, different story. We're reading this a little bit differently. If you've ever had a consult with me and you have elevated neutrophils, one of the first questions, or lymphocytes, one of the first questions I'm always going to ask is, hey, do you remember at the time that these labs were run, at the time of the blood draw, were you fighting something? Were you actively sick? Because that is going to change my interpretation of your blood test results. This is why we cannot just send me your test results. Here's a summary of all the issues going on, and then here's a supplement protocol. We need context when it comes to all of this. So the context of all of this is super, super important, which is why we ask for symptoms, health history, all of this other information so we can make sure we're interpreting this in the most accurate way that we possibly can. So I think that's really important to understand. And for example, when I ran my labs last year after I had some sort of gut infection, food poisoning, something, my white blood cell count was 9 point something. So definitely like very high. And then my neutrophil count was off the charts. It was like 75, 76% and over 5. And I knew immediately. I was like, okay, this is absolutely some sort of bacterial, yeast, fungal, like some sort of issue going on within my gut. And I was able to start on a protocol to help and support my body. I personally wanted to give antimicrobials a shot before potentially thinking about antibiotics. But I will tell you, I gave myself like a week and a half. If I wasn't starting to feel a difference, I was absolutely going to use antibiotics. So that is not my first choice. I think that is a personal preference. It was not my first choice at the time because I have other tools in my toolbox and I wanted to give those a shot. And I'm not anti-antibiotics. I don't want them to be overused in my body. I would absolutely support my body if I was going to use antibiotics. And if I don't have to, I would prefer not to because they can be very harsh on the body. So ideally, I did not want to have to go that route. And I was very, very open to doing that if I really needed to. So once again, different things to kind of think about here. On the opposite end of the spectrum, if someone never gets sick, that's also a red flag. You should kind of get sick like at least once every couple years. I'm not talking like down for the count, but once again, like a little head cold, very normal, little sinus infection, little throat kind of thing going on, like very, very normal for this to happen. And if someone never gets sick, if we see people that are like, "Oh, I never get sick," that is also a red flag. And I'm like, "Oh, what? What are you taking that's probably really heightening your immune system and suppressing some of these sicknesses that can then result in a variety of other chronic health issues?" I'll tell you the number one reason: too much vitamin D. As much as I hate to say that, it really is. It really is a big deal. Once again, we talk more about that in that blood test part 2 podcast episode. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more, like, please go back and listen to that episode where we dive a little bit deeper into that. But that is a really common reason. So I wanted to also share kind of to kind of wrap this up. And this, I do plan on having this be a little bit of a shorter episode. Sorry if you love hearing me talk for an hour at a time. Next week's episode, I'm prepping for it, is a big one. It's a big topic we're gonna be talking about, and I've got a lot of information to share about that. So we'll be back to some bigger, longer episodes coming up here. But I wanted to share some tools, some resources, some products that I will often have on hand just as kind of basic support for a variety of things that can be really helpful in just naturally supporting the body. Some of these can help you recover faster. Some of these are more along the lines of just symptom management to help you feel a little bit better, kind of as you're going here. So if you are experiencing nausea, one of my all-time favorite tools is peppermint. So there are peppermint essential oils that you can use. There are little roll-on kind of things that you can use that use essential oils. Peppermint tea can be really good. I even have these little peppermint oil drops that I use, one just as an alternative for gum or mints or anything. But they can also help with nausea. So, and it's pretty much just straight peppermint. Put a couple drops on your hand, kind of lick it off, and you're good to go. So peppermint can be a really helpful tool when it comes to nausea. When it comes to kind of some throat issues, there's a throat coat tea that I really like that can be really helpful. And then there's a spray, a throat spray from Biocidin, just Biocidin throat spray that I really love. That is something that I always have on hand. It's a natural antimicrobial. So if you've got some inflammation, some infection going on kind of in your throat, it can help with that and help start to kill some of that and obviously help your throat feel a little bit better too. Um, Honey can also be really, really helpful. There's a company called Beekeepers Natural or Beekeeper Naturals that also have a variety of products, and some of them are more throat related. They have really good cough drops. They've got some a variety of other products that can be really helpful, I think, especially from an acute illness perspective. With things like ear kind of issues, like ear infection, mullein garlic oil is my absolute favorite. You put it in, kind of put your head down to the side, put a few drops in there, and then you can do the other side. You want to let them sit in there a little bit. I also know, and I have never done this, but I do know this is a thing. Some people will put a clove of garlic. You got to like squish it to activate the properties within the clove of garlic. And some people will just put that in their ear for a while. Some people will also swallow that. Garlic is a really powerful tool when it comes to natural medicine. So that can be helpful for quite a variety of things. Not everyone's cup of tea, but the garlic oil drops in your ear is one of the most effective things that I've ever found for like ear infections, ear congestion, or like really clogged ears, and just helping to clean a lot of that out. When it comes to just like generalized, things to have on hand, I'll tell you my number one favorite product is Rapid Immune Boost from Herb Farm. It is always there. I always have a big bottle in my house. It is something that at the first sign of getting a little bit sick, I'm absolutely drinking that. And that's one of my all-time favorites. Certainly vitamin C can be helpful. Zinc, I would caution you, zinc can be helpful. I do not recommend taking zinc by itself without copper for more than 3 or 4 days. You can easily throw off your zinc and copper ratios and balances, which can cause a whole host of other issues. But like a zinc lozenge is my absolute favorite. I do keep some of those on hand, and I can use those as needed. Make sure you never take zinc on an empty stomach either. It can cause some digestive upset. So you never really want to do that. So those are some of the things. What else do we have on here? Some viral support. Viral, if it's viral related, L-lysine is my absolute go-to. If you are prone to cold sores when you get sick, if you have anything viral in nature, this is great. L-lysine is awesome. It's a natural antiviral that can help limit viral replication and help you recover a little bit faster. It is also something that we will recommend for a lot of people with chronic viral issues. For me, with my history of EBV, I always have L-lysine on hand. And if I starting to feel really tired, like I will often start to take that and give it a couple weeks and see if that starts to help, which it should. I'll also say that I really love a good binder whenever I'm sick, just to like help kind of clean up all the gunk that's in my body as my body's fighting things. We love the binders from Cellcore. ViRedChem is my go-to anytime I'm sick. There is some research on that one too, that can also help with viral issues and limit viral replication. So that is also another one of my all-time favorites. And then doing things, so anything that shouldn't be in our body, that our body's trying to actively get out and or process, it has to go through our liver. Liver support, almost never a bad idea. So castor oil packs, hot Epsom salt baths, those are really good. I mean, if you're sick, like that can be really good. If you consistently sauna, sometimes saunaing, may have just made up a new word, using the sauna at the very early signs of getting sick for some people can be helpful. If you're like in the middle of it, it may be a little too intense, but it also like towards the end, that could also help. And that could be really helpful as well. But I do really like the Epsom salt baths, and those can be really helpful and really supportive as well. You can also do some general lymphatic support. So if you get really swollen glands in your throat when you do get sick, definitely do some manual lymphatic drainage. This can go a long way. There are some great videos on YouTube on how to do this, but really focusing around the neck, making sure you're pushing down towards your heart when you're doing this. You always want to go towards your heart, doing it around your armpits, even around your groin. You've got a lot of lymph nodes around your groin, on your chest. Even this could be just like very gentle rubbing or tapping, even that can go a really long way. But I do find I am one of those people where my glands get really, really swollen and it almost like feels like I can't swallow all the way, that doing some manual lymphatic work around the glands can be very helpful, just helping to move a lot of that gunk. And not that it necessarily helps you get better faster, but it helps things move, which can feel better, can have less pain, and just like help you recover a little bit faster. So those are some of the big ones. With any sinus nasal stuff, I always recommend one of the first things I'll recommend is a neti pot and or a nebulizer. Both of those can be really helpful and really beneficial, kind of depending on the person. Also, it's not everyone's cup of tea to put salt water up their nasal passages, but it really can help and it can really go a long way. Outside of that, I really encourage people to try and listen to your body. I know you've got work, I know you've got life stuff, and you've got to take care of yourself. So slowing down a little bit, taking a day off of work, drinking extra water, drinking I love bone broth if you can't eat a lot. Like bone broth is super, super good, very nourishing, very good for your gut, just overall too. Can help a lot of with soothing. I drank a lot of bone broth last week when I was sick. I couldn't keep food down. So those are some other things that may be beneficial as well. But at the end of the day, your body knows how to fight these things. And sometimes we just gotta let it. And sometimes doing too much ahead of time can almost make it linger longer. I also know a lot of people like elderberry. Like, yeah, I think elderberry can be great, but once again, like, your body knows how to do this. And sometimes just letting your body do that and take that time to rest can go a really long way too. So that's a little bit about being sick and recovering and maybe some reasons why that we can often get sick. If you have additional questions around this topic, maybe some very like specific things around certain illnesses, always happy, more than happy to do specific episodes around certain topics like this. Never hesitate to reach out anywhere on social media, comments, you can send us an email, any or all of those things. So hope this was helpful and hopefully you don't get sick and know that your body can heal and it was designed to be able to fight these things and get back into a more optimal state. Thank you for listening. As always, please like, subscribe, follow. If it resonates, 5-star reviews really, really, really do mean the world to us. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.